critical mass, debate and criticism of and in the small press. Basically what we're going to be doing, we're going to be looking at how criticism and reviews can help hinder, develop the art form of comics. To discuss this, we have, all the way over there, Mr. David Bailey.
Hi.
Who's a comics creator. Tell us a bit about your work, quickly.
Well, for the last couple of years I've been doing small press stuff. I don't know if you might have seen the table there, the Doctor Fascination Scribe. My new book's called Tongue of the Dead. If you want to pop down and pick up a copy later. It's buy one, get one free for all the faces I recognise here.
And next thing we have Andrew Lewis, who's a lot of work on TRS2 on the Bug Powder site. He's also written for Comics International, Tripwire, and the Silver Bullet site. And he also created his own comics as well, don't you, Andrew?
I do, yes. There's a bunch of Transformers comics that seem pretty popular. They're over on the Flickr site, so if you just Google us, it's good about comics.
Next thing we have Matthew Baden, who is a regular contributor to Red Eye. And occasionally posts up on Bug Powder as well, don't you? And you've also written for Comics International. One.
Yeah, I've written for Comics International, but only once, and then I stopped, and we should talk about that later, because it's a very dodgy operation. Well, not the whole thing, but the reviews bit.
Give us the dirt.
Well, you know, they don't pay. You review the comics you're buying, so you're reviewing the comics you're predisposed to, so it's skewed anyway. Anyway, later.
Okay, and finally we have Andy Winter, who self-publishes as Moonface Press. He's done a trilogy, isn't it, of graphic novels called Devil Child, and he's currently selling a series of US-sized one-shots. And he's also written for Borderline, which was an online PDF magazine from a few years back. And he's also done stuff in Red Eye. Anything you want to add to that?
No, that was a lovely summation.
Fantastic. Right. Thought we could start off by maybe the panelists could discuss what they consider constitutes a good stroke bad review. Give examples of. That sounds like an exam question, doesn't it? Discuss. Andy, what do you consider is a good review?
I suppose more than a good review is something that if you're a small press or a publisher, that does two things. One, that it kind of gives you a bit of enthusiasm to sort of carry on what you're doing. But on a more sort of like practical note, something that perhaps you can use to help sell your books. We've had my work has sort of good, bad, and different reviews. But I always make a point of from the good reviews taking a snippet of something and using it in any publicity that I put out for my books basically. So even if that's all you do with it, it's useful.
Okay.
Probably first and foremost objectivity, which can be difficult with such a small scene. You don't want to lay into your friend's book. They might lay into you that one. I think something that gets neglected is that opinion is not enough on its own. It has to be opinion that's backed up intelligently. And one of the things that I find a bit disconcerting is how often you come across a review and it's like got basic typos in. And it's like, well, if you're writing a review and you can't even be bothered to sort of master the basics of the English language, how can they take seriously what you're saying about their comic? So objectivity, and I think just using the language appropriately and skillfully.
That's an interesting point. I think we'll come on to later about the language of comic reviews. Andy Luke, what do you consider to be a good review?
Yeah, Mr. Guest very well covered it anyway. I guess it's a pretty good interaction between the reviewer, the creators and yes, pretty good interaction between the creators and the reviewers and the audience. In a sense, the reviewer should be trying to pitch it to the audience. I think definitely much in the small press thing, the reviewer should be acting as, to a certain extent, not a salesman. And that's going to come across anyway, whether the reviewer likes it or not.
So is it a case of it's almost advertising, or is it something more than that?
Yeah, it's like advertising with a soul.
David, the only non-reviewer on the panel, what do you think when you read your own stuff being reviewed?
Well, I mean, as long as I think the review's been fair, what am I to say about objective. Like, I definitely feel like I've had a couple of unfair reviews, but not bad unfair reviews. I think glowing reviews that have done a bit more objectivity, but I shouldn't be condemned. But what Matt said about reviewers having a poor grasp of English occasionally, I've got a policy of ignoring anyone's point of view if they can't spell the word definitely. If there are any A's in there, I couldn't care less what they think. They get struck off.
So I think the general consensus is it's actually quite a skill. How do the three reviewers approach putting a review together?
I'd say that I think the most important bit, obviously as well as having some sort of mastery of the English language, should be given really. But I think that honesty, I think, is really something quite important. I want to know what somebody thinks of my work honestly, that they're not just, that it isn't just going to be some kind of, very bland, anodyne kind of thing that doesn't really tell me anything. If somebody doesn't, I'll give you an example really. Devil Child, the 3 volumes of that have been reviewed by Stephen Grant at CGR. And he hates us. He thinks that we pretty much suck really. But the fact is that I have a lot more respect for what he says, even though it's very critical, than I would of something that I just felt was kind of, that maybe just like want to hurt my feelings, or because the thing is, I guess I sort of straddle this a little bit because I've reviewed comics, but I also have had my comics reviewed, I've written reviews of books that haven't been very complimentary, and you just, I think you have to accept that not everybody is going to like your stuff. As long as they're honest about that, I've never really had a problem with it.
Is there any way that personal taste can be taken out of the equation, so you actually are critiquing the comic because it's as a comic?
I'm not really sure that that's possible, or even something that is a good thing anyway. I just think that everybody has their point of view and their tastes, and that's always inevitable. That's always going to inform what you write. And I guess it should. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As long as it's like some sort of personal, as long as it's a personal attack, as long as it's purely about the work, then I don't really think it matters.
I mean, it comes back to Matt's point earlier about how do you, the fact that the small press community is so small that we do kind of know each other. How do you take that person side over? I don't really want to review the mate's work, or does it influence them? How can you stop that? Is there any way of stopping it? Yeah, well, go on then.
I think, one of the things I do is I very rarely attend conventions, and if I do, I often just sort of nip in and leave instead. You obviously make friendships, and also, you do have to retain that objectivity, because the term bad review gets thrown around, but what is a bad review? You can give someone a negative review, but if you write it well, you write it appropriately, then they're actually going to gain from that. because the creator can look at that and look at those points and say, well, how much do I agree? How much is that valid? Also, you know, it's all part of an interaction. There's an interaction, and I think sometimes the people who read these reviews, they get underestimated. Because, for example, a little while ago I wrote a pretty negative review of Solar Wind, and I was discussing it with my friend, saying, you know, and he reads Red Eye, and he just kind of said, oh yeah, I read that review and I really like the sound of Solar Wind. You know, he was thinking about getting it. The point is, as a reader, he had deconstructed that review. It's not like, you know, the word of God. He's not going to take it verbatim. So I think if you do them well, you're objective, you're fair, they're actually really valid and vital parts of the discourse. And one of the things that kind of disconcerts me is that there's so much opinion out there nowadays, and part of it is the internet. So you get this thing, for example, where people will get a negative review and they'll kind of bitch about it on their message groups, and surprise, surprise, all the people on their message group who are their most hardcore fans will say, oh, it's nonsense. And something's getting lost there. You know, we've had bad reviews for Red Eye, and those bad reviews have helped us, and it's a continuous process of improving the product. Because, you know, I've had that feeling, and I don't know if other people have had it. I've read some hype about a comic, small press comic, I've put my money in the post, you know, I've got the comic, and it's shit. And that's like 2 hours of my life. And, you know, I worked for that money. So I'm absolutely adamant, I'm not going to write reviews that do that to other people, you know. I mean, there might be things I love, but hopefully by reading my reviews, people will learn what I love, and they'll be able to say, yeah, he's into that stuff, he always goes for that, but I don't, so I'll give it a miss, you know. There's a critical relationship there.
So can critics kind of, I don't want to say make or break his career, that's kind of the top, but you know what I mean? Can we as critics kind of inform things? And is that something we need to be careful of, or something we should do, or we don't do enough? Any thoughts? Yeah, but I mean, as a creator, do you feel that?
No, I mean, I'm in a position where I need to read the reviews because I need to use them to construct mini press releases and stick press clippings in the back in comics. But I would love to be in a position where I don't read the reviews at all. So if I had a choice, I wouldn't. Because a bad review can sort of kill my creativity for a good few days, and a good review makes me complacent. I'm not sure if maybe that's just a failing on me. Andy, is that the sort of reaction you have to reviews?
I guess what you're saying about a bad review that's well written, I think it does make all the difference. So I would find it would point me in the right direction, and at least if it's well written, I know that the reviewer is not just having a go. This is something the reviewer deeply feels or perceived, and hence the bother of taking the time to construct a review that's well written. I guess with the commentator versus criticism, commentator or critic, I would tend to go for the commentator thing just because it's politically easier, and it's not going to offend as many people. But with the criticism, with being a critic, you are sort of putting yourself in a position of shepherding the creator or pointing the creator in the right direction in a kind of an authoritative sort of manner. And my life is fucked up enough on its own without trying to point someone else in the right direction. Not much so.
Let's say that I sometimes think that maybe it's sort of like creators that people always expect a reviewer to be nice to them, really, and then they're sort of horrified when maybe they aren't. think what is quite important is that people should kind of realise that, you know, reviewers, you know, aren't there first and foremost to advertise you and advertise the product. What they're actually there to do, the most important person when it comes to that whole kind of, you know, review dynamic, if you want, is the reader. He's there to entertain and inform the reader. And that the reader is probably going to be a lot more entertained by, you know, by a negative review, which is sort of quite negative, than he is by some sort of, you know, bland kind of all this comic's alright kind of, you know, kind of thing. So I think that we kind of miss, you know, we're kind of missing somebody out here between the dialogue between the reviewer and the creator, but there's somebody, you know, very important in the middle there. You know,
That's correct. Yeah.
Is the reader.
Is that the danger of the community though, that we are very, we're so very entwined that it is easy to forget there's actually people out there that don't create comics, that actually do just read them, but it doesn't feel like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's good.
I mean, I think a good rule of thumb is don't put something in a review you won't say to someone to their face. If you wouldn't say, I mean, this is the other thing about the internet. If anyone's ever had someone slag them off on the internet, it's like you wouldn't say it to my face. Well, you might, because I'm a weakling. But you know, if you're not brave enough to say it to their face, and I do think you have to consider the reader, yeah. But if you give a fair and objective account, the reader will look after themselves, and you do have to consider the feelings of the creator, because there are ways of, you know, also it's just bad craft. If you have a small press comic or any comic or product, and you say it's boring, move on to next paragraph, it's like, or it's shit. There's no craft there as a critic. The craft should be about backing up your opinions, and it should be, you know, point, example, analysis, and that's what you do have to do. And I think sometimes maybe reviews do go, I mean, I've been accused of it myself, but they do go for the easy, like, soundbite, you know, and you do have to be careful of that. Certainly with Red Eye, what I would hope is that we're constantly working towards more informed reviews, and that's what we're trying to push. And the other thing about actually, just let's say we gave everyone a good review, it doesn't just undermine the reader in that they might buy something and think, well, he sold me a lie. It doesn't just undermine the creator because they'll be thinking, well, I'm supposed to improve. It undermines the reviewer and the critic, because it's like the culture of the bland, you know, and that's the last thing we want. I think you do have to appreciate the creator's feelings so that they don't lose their creativity and look for what is positive. But you also, I mean, comics are a medium that need continuous revolution. They're bland enough as it is. You know, Alan Moore gets into decompressed storytelling, and we're still fucking doing it 15 years later, which is all right, unless it's all we're doing. And I mean, only now people are starting to say, well, hang on, the comic, let's see, elements, panel borders, captions, you know, thought bubbles, speech balloons, all those elements, we could use all of those, and we don't have to try and mimic V for Vendetta. And maybe if more critics came out and said, V for Vendetta, it's a good comic, but it's not the be-all and end-all, we wouldn't have got in that situation, you know. So that was a bit of a rant, wasn't it?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was funny.
I think you've picked up an interesting point there. I think. We don't really have a critical language for comics though, do we? Not like film and prose. Does that make it difficult?
Well,
I think that's Andy's question. Because I overheard that conversation earlier and I couldn't get my head around it.
No, I just got to thinking about there was Andy Conti for a few years back back in the 90s did graphic reviews, the reviews done in comics book form.
Oh, there's a guy in the web that does that as well. The guy who does the pencil. There's two characters, a pencil and the other end of the pencil, the rubber one. Has anyone seen him? He's an American guy, but he does reviews. I met him at San Diego last year. He said he'd been reviewing comics, he didn't. But he does, it's just like a 5-panel review. It's just like a newspaper comic strip, but your reviews of comic every week.
Do you remember what his name was?
No.
Surprisingly comic.
Yeah, no, very well. Like, what would you Google pencil review guy
With a bugger on the end.
To go back to that point about the language, I think maybe again that's the responsibility of the reviewers. Like, it's up to us to try and develop a critical language. And another thing that happens is we borrow from other sort of criticisms, as it were. We borrow from cinema, and there are similarities, but it's not comparing like with like.
But do you think the critical language that's used in cinema criticism, do you think that's inadequate for comics criticism?
Well, yeah, to be honest.
Okay.
But it's not fighting on.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. In what way?
I think one nice thing about not having a critical language is that you can choose to just use simple, plain English. And actually, you know, if you're not afraid of using simple, plain English, you can express anything. So maybe actually it can be turned into a positive that we don't have this unified language. In the same way that I think one of the positive things about comics is that it's in a bit of a ghetto, and it is so complex, you know. You'll never pin it down. It will always be developing. So I actually think that's a positive, so long as we don't borrow too heavily from other sort of media, either in terms of criticism or, you know, execution.
So I was going to say, I'm wondering why we have never developed our own sort of like critical language. Is it because we're comics are kind of like a bastardised sort of thing, sort of made up of a mishmash of lots of other different sort of like forms?
I suppose the question is, how did those other critical languages develop?
I think those other critical languages had more of a forum, because until quite recently there were very few places to read comics reviews. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. The Comics Journal does a very specific kind of review. Comics International does another very different kind of comics review. And it's only in the last sort of 5-10 years that you've got things like reviews like PRS, and things like Red Eye popping up. And maybe that's why there's been a lack of a specific critical language for comics.
This same argument that was, I remember it from the sort of like the mid-80s, late 80s, when Fantasy Advertiser was going into it. It's astonishing actually that here we are, maybe 20 years later,
still having the same conversation.
You know, and you're right, and it is crazy because comics are so, well, I mean, you know, however much of a mishmash they are, sort of like, you know, movies, novels, and the rest of it. I mean, clearly you can do things in, you know, comics work completely differently to any of those things. You know, in terms of storytelling, pacing, the turn of the page, and panel size, and all the rest of it. So,
but I'd say they're not a mishmash. They're not a mishmash. They're a collection of. They're a collection of elements, and you know, any media when it first emerges, it borrows from another media. So, like, you've got cinema and you film a stage play, or you film a pillow fight, and you're like, oh, this is exciting. Then it develops its own language. Comics are not a mishmash of things. They are their own unique form. The thing about them, I think, is that they're incredibly sophisticated. That is the big irony. They're so sophisticated that they're hard to pin down.
I'd say that they are and they aren't, because I'll give you an example. When I first started reading comics in the early 70s, I'll give you an example of a Jerry Conway script, Tomb of Dracula comic. And you go back to that, and it's obvious that he as a writer has been very, very influenced by, you know, these sort of fairly highfalutin novels that he's read, and they're incredibly dialogue, well, actually not dialogue, text box heavy. You might as well be reading a novel. And kind of what has happened over the last 30 odd years is that writers have moved away from having, you know, using novels as the things that they kind of base their comic scripts on to movies, and so you don't actually any longer see, you know, loads of text boxes. In fact, there's some comics that don't have them at all. So, what I'm trying to say is that comics, particularly in terms of their writing, used to be a mishmash of comics and novels, and now they're a mishmash of comics and movies. if you
I
see
don't
what
agree. But you know, I mean, I think the thing is that maybe, well,
rather than another.
But I think that-
having sort of watched Inky Charles last night, which was about the NME, and was really good. But what was interesting there was they sort of had all these reviews and writers on writing about music, and there seemed to be a continuity, like there was definitely, you know, different epochs and different approaches, but each one sort of seeped into the other. But we don't seem to have that in comics. It's like it's discontinuous, you know, like you say, we're having the same argument we had 20 years ago. It's almost like a stop-start thing, peaks and troughs.
Is it almost like we're missing a consensus then of opinion? Or we're not? I mean, what drove those changes from Jerry Conway doing ridiculous caption descriptions to what we have now, where Warren Ellis wouldn't write a caption if you held a gun to it?
I think Matt's right. It was Alan Moore. Everyone started copying Alan Moore after Watchmen and V for Vendetta because of the great critical success he had with those two.
But to be fair, I suppose as well to Alan Moore, to be fair to him, not that he cares.
He shrugs his shoulders.
Yeah.
I've seen him do it.
Yeah, he did. They did the same thing with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I mean, you sort of have Jack Kirby, and then Steranko innovates, and then you have a lot of Steranko and Kirby clones. So maybe, and sometimes I think that's part of it. I don't know. There just seems to be this talk of people get stuck.
Yeah, but I don't think that just happens in comics. I mean, after the Image Revolution, everything was done Image comics. I was in San Diego last year, and an awful lot of the indie books, well, not, but there seemed to be a disproportionate number of people starting to write Bendis style, you know, like 1,000 balloons on a page, or bubbles on a page, and that's an obvious aping of an obvious specific aping of an individual creator. But I mean that's not specific to comics.
No, so is it critical success that drives it, or sales success? Or is it both? No, I was just wondering whether it's sales or critical success that actually drives something everyone to start eating Bendis.
I think it's Stan Lee. I think it's a case of money. He's not the root of all evil, but there is, even in the small press, are we still talking about reviewing and criticism? We've gone wildly tangential, haven't we? Right, even in the small press, there seems to be a sort of Stan Lee type of hucksterism, you know. I've got 16 projects, and they're all going to be released next year, and then people underperform. I think there's a kind of chase the money thing going on, and it is very boom and bust. A lot of media are like that, but comics in particular, it's very boom and bust. You know, it's like, we all know about these peaks and troughs.
I think the boom and bust thing, a lot of that's down to the fact that a lot of comics fans getting into the business and thinking the business is much more straightforward than it is, and experiencing cash flow problems very early on in business, like, because they're not business people. But reviews.
Anyway,
Extra good review.
what does my at the beginning?
Can I just answer that?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just curious because you guys all review quite frequently. So we get 3 prolific reviewers, and like you were saying about the small press being quite a small world, or even just the comics world in general being quite a small world. Do you review the work of friends?
I mean, I wasn't joking about not really coming to cons and trying to keep it all by email. I don't review, I wouldn't call them friends, but there are people whom I don't review anymore because I consider myself too much of a fanboy. They automatically get a good review. I consciously pass over on reviews by Mardu, Jeremy Dennis, and Sean Azzopardi because I like their work so much. I feel I've lost objectivity. You know, I'm a bit fanboy about it, which is really highly embarrassing for all parties, but there you go.
And you just admitted it in public.
Well, you know, I mean, it's true. It's like...
Jeremy's waving at you.
Yeah.
That's admirable.
I don't really review very much anymore because I don't have time, unfortunately, but I've never really found myself in that situation. I'm a connoisseur as well, and I do like his stuff. But I like to think that if I come across somebody's work that I need, and that I felt that I was giving them a better review than they deserve because they were my mates. I'd like to think that I would actually pass that thing on to someone else to do. But it is difficult. Like, it's not exactly a huge community. It's something I've never done that. You're going to come across, you're going to be asked to review something by somebody you know, and possibly know quite well, like. So maybe it's, make it sort of a line in the sand, so I've got to review my mate's work.